You're looking at the auditorium in Urbana High School as it was when originally constructed in 1913. Just in time for her 100th birthday, the grand old lady is having a major makeover to greet her second century. Work on this historic center of music and dramatic arts in Urbana is nearing completion, and today we'll meet some of the key players in this project and learn what it takes to make a theater. The architect Joseph Royer has been celebrated as Urbana's architect. Royer graduated from Urbana High School and the University of Illinois, and he left his fingerprints on important buildings throughout our area. In 1901, he designed the Champaign County Courthouse, followed by the Urbana Free Library, the Urbana Lincoln Hotel, and many homes and business buildings throughout the area, as well as schools all over Illinois and Iowa. The Urbana Public Arts Commission has been celebrating the quality and variety of his many additions to our local landscape. And most recently, Urbana High School received a historical plaque in a ceremony on her front lawns. Joseph Royer would be 139 years old if he could be with us today, but let me introduce some current artists involved with the legacy he left us. I'm your host, Greg Chu. And our first guest is Scot Wachter. Scot is president, and he's the W in IGW Architecture in Urbana. Thanks for being here with us today, Scot, and on Art Now. And I understand you've been in the community for a while.
Yeah, I was actually born in Decatur and moved to Champaign for in school at the University of Illinois for architecture. Worked in Chicago for a while and then came back. Have been working here in the community for about 25 years.
Terrific. Well, architecture is a profession that is often chosen for characters in the movies and on TV roles. People have respect for the drama and scope of your profession. How do you have to balance art and engineering, not to mention history, in this major renovation of the auditorium?
This was a challenging project, and we always face those challenges. I mean, you have the engineering and the functional side of a project, but the fun part of our profession, and also challenging part, is to take those functional relationships and make it into a beautiful, attractive facility. So, and in this project, then we throw in that historical aspect as well. So we want to try and maintain some of those historic characteristics of the building, but at the same time, make it a functional, modern facility. So.
Okay. Well, certainly. The people of the city of Urbana are pleased that we're keeping this historic building, and while we bring it up to grade for new challenges. Have you worked on a Royer building before? Yes,
we've followed in Royer's footsteps on a number of occasions. We started out in the early 80s by remodeling the Urbana High School. We also did the Urbana Free Library. We did an addition and remodeling to that. We've also addition and remodeling to the Champaign County Courthouse, another Royer project, and actually did a restoration of the tower at the courthouse to restore that to its former glory.
I believe the tower was hit by lightning, wasn't that the case?
It was, and was much shorter for a few years.
But nobody was sent to the future or anything at that time. Well, what's notable about his work, in your opinion?
He was an interesting art. He used a lot of European styles, but he never limited himself to one style. You'll notice, pieces from a lot of different styles combined into his buildings. So he was very unique in that regard. So
pretty eclectic style.
Yeah, in his own way. Yeah.
Well, this space that we're enclosed in, it was. How's the box holding up? It's 100 years old now.
Very well. The structure was very sound and integral. We did find a few surprises as we went through the remodeling. Had to reinforce and rebuild portions of the exterior walls, put a new roof on the whole facility. So
Okay.
But in general regards, it's in good shape. So.
Okay. You might have found a few of my fountain pens I lost over the years. I directed in this space for 35 years. Well, I'm sure renovation is more challenging than building a new space. Tell us how you met a particular challenge in overseeing this renovated design.
Yeah, one of the challenges here was we had a fairly flat auditorium floor. It was set up for lectures, and the stage is actually a little high for production. So we re-sloped the existing floor, and to do that, we were concerned about the weight on the existing structure. So we actually used large styrofoam blocks, a product called geofoam, and you can cut it in various shapes. So we laid those down to form the new profile of the floor, and then poured concrete over the top. So that was fairly unique, trying not to overstress the existing structure. So.
Well, and as a result, you can sit in the auditorium and watch a show, and you have a much better angle with the stage than you would have had before.
Right.
Well, what makes a theater space different from other kinds of buildings?
There's really an incredible amount of high technology involved in modern performance spaces. You get sound systems, video systems, all the lighting systems. We've got an orchestra shell in this, which we hang. So you got all the rigging systems to fly scenery and curtains, and so it's really highly technical, and it's very specialized. We have to hire consultants that we bring in because it's just not something we do every day. And same way for the construction side. It's not something your normal general contractor is used to doing, so we have a lot of specialty contractors as well that come in and help complete the project.
Well, I know a stage probably puts a lot of stresses on a building that almost anything else wouldn't even begin to measure up to.
Yeah.
Well, the audience will see a modern technology balanced with a sense of history as they walk into the house. What changes will they see from the audience point of view as they take seats for upcoming concerts and plays here?
Quite a few changes on the house. One thing we did was we widened the proscenium opening and lowered it a little bit to accommodate an orchestra. We did keep a lot of the detail, took molds to actually recreate the plaster opening. We've also expanded the stage into the house a little bit. And there's significant changes in the facility. So.
Well, the many alumni in the area will be happy to see the crest of Urbana High is still above the stage. How about behind the curtains, the places the audience never sees? What's going to enhance music and theater in this new space?
Well, we talked about all the technology. I mean, obviously there's sound reinforcement and all the systems, but also we've added some space. There was an existing courtyard that we converted into interior space now, and that allows us to have storage and scene shops and new green rooms and all that stuff that was really lacking in the existing building. So, and that's something you won't see when you come into the auditorium, but was a big part of the project.
Sure, yeah, it's like an iceberg. The part you don't see is what keeps it floating. So. Well, finally, just as in theater, architecture is a collaborative art. Who makes up the cast of a project like this?
It takes quite a few people. We talk about it takes a village to raise a kid. It takes a village to design and build an auditorium. So on the design side, we have a local structural engineer who went to Urbana High School, Jim French. And then we have an engineering, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineering concepts and solutions. They're here in Champaign. And then from out of town for some of those specialty theatrical requirements, we have Jones Phillips, and also acoustical design group out of Kansas City for acoustics. So.
Oh, wow, so it really is a group effort to...
And that's just on the design. On the construction, then we have Thelma Dickerson as a general contractor, and then a whole series of specialty contractors underneath him. So.
And of course you had members of the community and the school board and faculty. You took input all along the way, I know.
Yeah, we worked closely with all the staff. worked closely with the board and particularly John Dimmitt on funding the project, which that's a big first step to any project. So.
Huge, you're right. Well, Scott, I appreciate you being with us on Art Now, and we're looking forward to welcoming the public to this brand new space. I'd like to turn now to some of the other cast members in this theater renovation. We are here today getting in the way of representatives from Jones and Phillips Associates, specializing in consulting, planning, and designing theaters and the equipment needed in a modern facility. With us is Noemi Ybarra and Belinda Long from Jones and Phillips. Noemi got involved with lighting design 25 years ago when she did not get cast in local theater productions, so she volunteered to run lights. She has a degree in theater from Western Michigan University as well as a teaching degree, and her work has brought her to the Milwaukee Repertory Theater and stage and production management at the University of Michigan. For a while in her life, she says she lighted an awful lot of cars. With her is Belinda Long, who started out in building construction management with a degree from Purdue University. She brings a uniquely special set of experiences and skills to the other professionals in her 6 years at Jones Phillips. Thanks for being with us on Art Now today, Noemi and Belinda.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Well, what have you been working on today?
Today we've been focusing on training the owners, the users, on the dimming and control system. There are a lot of new places where they can run lights and a lot of new ways that they can run lights. So part of our work includes being here for the training to make sure that they learn all the stuff, to make sure they hear all the stuff they need to hear and understand it.
I imagine it's pretty overwhelming, however, with...
It can be, yes, yeah. We would prefer about 8 hours of training on the dimming system, but usually after about 4, eyes start to glaze over and people can't retain that much information. So sometimes the person training will come back and do a little more later on.
Well, they'll have lots of opportunities to practice in the future.
Yes, I think they're looking forward to it too.
I'm sure they are. What are the lighting challenges that you found in this project? And what solutions have you found to some of these challenges?
Well, this space was built without any, good ways to get to the house lights over the audience to change the light bulbs. There may have been catwalks up there at one time, but now there's lots and lots and lots of ductwork. Belinda's quite familiar with that.
Did a little crawling over the ductwork to get to.
So because of that, we went with LED house lights, which is pretty new technology. You talk about cutting edge, this is sort of the bleeding edge. It hasn't quite settled down yet. So LED house lights that are still on order, but they will be here before their first production.
Oh, terrific. So we are moving into the most modern form of lighting.
A lot less pollution, a lot less energy used, very long lives.
All right.
They won't be changing light bulbs every 6 months, more like every 5 years.
So our new installation is very green. What about as far as lighting the stage? Are there any special problems with the stage? Is it kind of shallow? Is it?
It's small, it's shallow, it's crowded. We tried to give everybody as much as we could in terms of pipes to hang things on. And so it's tight up there. And out in front of the house, over the audience, there was once a catwalk, big honking catwalk, that basically blocked the view from the balcony. And that's been removed. And so since now people can't get up there to change the lights and focus the lights, we put in a truss that moves on motors and comes down so people can reach them to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the truss is driven from a line shaft motor that is actually above the ceiling in the midst of all of the ductwork and has lines that pick it up. It's a box truss 20 by 20, I believe is what they said, and lines that pick it up at both the front and back.
To keep it from tipping.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cable that goes to that truss to bring dimming circuits down to the lights, and just straight power and some data, some control information.
And usually the sound, the AV people like to kind of ride on our backs there, and they like hanging their speakers from that as well. So we do have a couple of speakers up there.
Terrific, yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like we have new technology being brought to bear all over this stage, and that truss sounds very interesting. I bet people would like to see that. Suppose we could take a look?
Oh, sure.
Very good.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll take a moment to look at one of the big changes in the auditorium. Okay, so we're lowering the new structure so you can see all the innovations that are a part of it. Can you explain what we see as it comes down to seat level?
Well, you can see the silver box truss. That's what's holding everything up. There's a big black box that runs across, and that has the dimming circuits in it. There are theater lights, regular stage lights hanging off of it. You may be able to hear that sound. That's the pantograph that holds all the cables that come down to the truss.
That feed electricity to and
electricity and data.
Data, thank you.
So it's sort of a sliding elbow joint. That
Sliding
moves
elbow
over.
joint,
Yeah.
right. It's one of the ways of cable management.
And these moving lights, these are the things that we associate with rock shows in the past, but we have them here now.
Yes. The biggest lights that you can see there on the truss are moving lights. They call them intelligent lights sometimes. And through the data, we can make those move back and forth, left and right, pan to the left and pan to the right, or tilt up and down, or spin. I mean, basically, it has 360-degree motion. It can change colors. It can change focus. You can put patterns and project things with them. We put them there because with that truss not being reachable by a human being when it's up in its play position, we wanted to give the users a way to focus a light quickly if they needed a special for something. You know, if you've already got a center light set up for somebody at a lectern, but that person decides they want to be 3 feet that way, well, you may not have a light already focused for that, but you can take one of those moving lights and point it at them. And it also gives them the option to do fancy bells and whistles kind of things for musicals and special events.
But so when the actor takes a spot out of a light, it's not going to be the problem it used to be.
Actors not hitting their marks?
Shocking, I know. Well, I know that one reason Jones Phillips was selected was that they've done projects very similar to this school, and your proposal was very compelling for that reason. What's different about a renovation from starting over with a new building?
Oh.
Oh, everything?
Yeah, pretty much everything. Especially when you are working in a building that has historical significance and is beloved by the local community. And so you have to fit into the existing footprint of what was originally built.
With a new building, if you want a wall someplace, you can put a wall someplace. If you need to move that wall or you know, when you're in the design phase, you can move things around. In an existing building, you've got the box, and there's very rarely enough money to change all the walls. And in this case, it's obvious people wouldn't want to.
But yeah, that was absolutely not even a question.
Well, there's one school in Urbana that everybody went to, and they come back for reunions, and this is always one of the highlights. And I think it'll be even more of a highlight for this year's returning alums.
Our goal is always to make it better, but still, you know, what it is.
Well, it's an amazing operation, and your contributions have been wonderful to it. And thank you for being on Art Now. I appreciate a chance to talk to you, Noemi, and also you, Belinda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My final guest is having Christmas in September right now. Please welcome Tim Broeker to Art Now. Tim is entering his 3rd year as drama director at Urbana High School. He's got my old job. Tim did productions here in his final year before renovation, and then spent the past year doing his shows at Urbana Middle School. Their performing space was renovated a year ago in anticipation of the high school students, as well as a strong music program and fast-growing drama program for the middle school students. Are you ready to move back, Tim?
I am more than ready to move back. It's been a rough couple of years, I think.
Well, you've been tested and you've done fine. Well, you spent the day learning to use some of the new equipment that has come along with the renovation. What are some things that you're excited about with this new auditorium?
I think I knew from the beginning that we were getting, some great new modern technology that a lot of high schools, especially in this area, don't have. I guess knowing that is different than actually seeing it and learning how to operate it and just being completely blown away and amazed. We have, some intelligent light fixtures that do some really crazy, awesome things visually to enhance our shows. The rigging system to operate all of the curtains, the drapes, and all scenery on stage to fly, all being run off of a computer. It's all fascinating. It's very interesting how it works and learning about how the motors operate all of that and how the network of the computer that the whole system is kind of run off of operates.
Well, you're 50 years later in technology than when last the stage was used, and that's pretty exciting. Well, you directed 2 productions in that old space. How does the new space change your options as a director?
Oh my gosh, I think the stage space itself is much larger. It's much wider. We lost some space in our wings, so it allows us to be more creative with our scenery and how we store things off stage or how we build scenery so that it flips back and forth and whatever's showing to the audience is what the current scene is. The lighting in itself is, the kids are always laughing about having to knock 3 times in the right spot on the light board to get it to work. And today, some of the students were in here with me and we're just shocked at they're not going to have to do that anymore, essentially. If that's what they're hoping, at least. We shouldn't have to.
They'll be spoiled, that's for sure. Tell us about the Orchestra Pit.
The Orchestra Pit. That is one of my favorite parts of the addition, actually. In the past, there hasn't been a spot designated for the orchestra. I know that for some of your shows when you were here, you would set up some scaffolding and do some really interesting things on the back of the stage and then have video feed set up. And we have a full-blown orchestra pit now in the front of our stage where we can remove the top of the stage or the stage floor over that and have the orchestra visible to the audience to some capacity, or we can leave the top on it and have that as extra dance space, but still have the orchestra underneath it and still have them heard by all the audience. And it's screened across the front too, so they could still kind of see down in there.
Wow, orchestra pits have been around for so long, but this is the first time we've had one at Urbana.
Right, that's crazy.
That's so exciting. You also, beyond this area, you have new spaces for concessions and things like that?
We do. We have kind of an official box office, or a press box office that we're calling it, that we can do concessions, we can sell all of our tickets in there. They're going to set us up with a computer systems so that we can do online ticketing. We can have an email-based setup, we can do phone lines, all run out of one central location. We have some new green room spaces, more dressing room space and storage space that's just going to be, we lost some storage space and we gained some more storage space, and I think that the biggest thing will be the way that it's organized and the way that we're shelving it and kind of maximizing the use of the space that we have.
And you have a classroom that adjoins the stage, so the drama class can just flow right onto the stage.
Right, and my kids have it's an older classroom that was a part of the building originally that has a door that just connects to a hallway that walks right onto stage, and my kids this year have been, Mr. Broeker, where does that door go? And they're very curious, and so I've made up lots of stories as to what's behind that door and the noises they've heard. And I've just decided that I'm not always teaching a drama class. Like I'm teaching speech right now. I'm going to bring my kids in here and have them give speeches off the stage because it's a part of the learning environment. It's a part of the classroom, so we should use it for that.
Yeah, no, I think this is a perfect setup for you. There's elevators that are involved as well?
They did. They put in a custom elevator that is made to fit some of our larger pieces of scenery, made to fit a lot of the musical instruments so they can move all the way down from the music hall up here to put on stage for concerts to get into the pit. And it opens up, in the hallway in front of our house, like in the lobby, and it also opens up on the backside to our backstage area so that we can move those things.
And the back of the house, how are people controlling things back there?
Well, we've got lots of different booths now. Instead of just having the booth up in the balcony as we had in the past, we have a lighting control booth and stage manager booth that's behind the seats on the floor, and it's raised up, and there's windows there, so it's kind of soundproof. We have the box office that we talked about. Upstairs in the balcony, we have the sound booth. They've outfitted the entire space with clear comm system. So there's an intercom system that even in the vestibules that the ushers can have headsets and know what's going on, as well as the person running the soundboard and the light board. And there's an intercom system linked to the green room and dressing rooms downstairs so the actors know what's going on. And besides just that, we have a closed circuit video feed and TVs just everywhere backstage, on the stage, in the scene shop, in the green room, in the dressing rooms, in the classroom, in all of the hallways and stairwells in between. There's speakers and TVs in the ticket office, so they can't actually see the stage, but they can see what's going on the stage, and they see where we're at in the show when we're getting ready for intermission, so they can make sure they're ready to go without having to open the doors and make noise and be distracting. So there's lots of different ways for everyone to really be able to effectively communicate, no missed entrances, things like that. So I think it should flow more smoothly.
And the students, what are they telling you about the new space?
The students are excited. They don't know what to expect. I've talked about it a lot. They've heard a lot about it. Now that the main hallway is open, a lot of eyes have kind of peeked in, but been too scared to come all the way in. So there's a lot of talk going on.
So it's all been kept under wraps.
It has been for the most part. We did about a weekend ago. I brought through the cast of our current show, and we just did a quick walkthrough because they weren't able to focus because they were so concerned about not having a stage. So within the next week or two, we'll be able to start rehearsing on the stage and whatnot.
Well, before we talk about that next show, how'd you get through last year? What were some of the challenges of working in another space like that?
Things that the typical challenges that we would have imagined would have been challenges, I think, were, it's a separate space. It's a different, all of our stuff from the auditorium here was packed up and moved in several different storage locations that were off-site. My classroom and all of the stuff that we needed immediately essentially was here, and I had access to that in this building, and there was a lot of going back and forth between buildings. We did have a small storage space that we were able to keep some of the tools and things that we would need over at the middle school, but even then it wasn't directly linked to where we needed to be. We had to kind of walk through the building and through some small hallways to get there. They did some great things to make that space accessible for us as well as for the middle school, like you said, and adding the curtains, the sound panels and new sound system and soundboard, the light board that they got. It's all wonderful for them. One thing that we kind of struggled with a little bit was the lighting fixtures that went over there were all of the ones that were in here that we kind of struggled with previously. So we did lose a lot of, every day it was like there was more light bulbs burning out, and we had to figure out how to fix lights, and we weren't able to just lower a beam and fix them. We had to have a big lift, and we couldn't do it while there were people there. We had to do it like during the day.
Well, those lights were old when I started teaching, so they're Paleolithic.
So, but they're still working, some of them.
Well, yeah, we taped them. Duct tape will take you a long way, but you've moved to another level. That's very exciting. Well, tell us about some of the productions that are coming up this year, beginning with Chicago, the musical.
Yeah, we are very excited about our inaugural production in this space, which will be Chicago, the musical, like you said. Chicago it's a difficult show to get the rights to. I know you did it once before here at Urbana. And when I applied for the rights initially, we were denied. They just said that there were too many touring productions close enough in proximity they didn't want us to do it. And so I was prompted to kind of write them a letter and explain to them why we chose Chicago. And a lot of that came off of it's a big, flashy show. It's going to draw some crowds. It's going to be a great show to open this space with the technology that we have to use. It's very fitting for our students. And it's challenging still. And after I wrote a letter to them about wanting to use the space, wanting to challenge our students and just showcase what we have, they said that we could have the rights to it, and so we were granted the rights and able to do it.
The music concert, I think the first event in here will be coming up on the 15th.
Yep,
is
October
that right?
15th is a Monday. We have our orchestra concert, first orchestra concert that night. And then later in that week, we have a band concert and a choir concert. So there's 3 music concerts that week.
So the music department fits on this stage now. So
That was the plan.
so it's going to be a showplace for theater and music here at Urbana. Both programs are doing great. We'll end with what you'll see as you walk in to view the new auditorium. For 100 years, the students of Urbana have filed in here to see theater, music, famous speakers, and many more events, including more than a few boring meetings. The next century promises greater things. Thanks for watching Art Now. I want again to thank our guests, IGW Architecture President Scot Wachter, Jones and Phillips Associates, Noemi Ybarra and Belinda Long, and of course Urbana High School's own Director of Theater, Tim Broeker. You can learn more about upcoming productions in this new Urbana High School Theater on the District 116 calendar, found at www.usd116.org. We hope you've enjoyed today's shows, and we hope it will inspire you to explore the local art scene and make your own art now.